Because you know what? We had a childhood without the internet.
Oh yeah.
But we did, but it was tech heavy. You know,
like
there were games,
things,
Polaroid cameras, Tamagotchis, like that was in the 90s, but you know what I mean? Like we had a lot of really techie things.
We saw a lot of things come into existence then, right?
A lot.
I think it's weird for people to imagine the world before the internet or before phones.
I know.
Right?
I know.
So it's kind of
And you
crazy.
found your friends by just like wandering around the neighborhood.
Yeah, you would just like knock on someone's door like, hi Mr. Mrs.
Yes,
Can somebody come out to play?
Exactly,
or,
absolutely.
You know. Welcome to the Metaforecast. I am with someone that provides a unique space for a lot of poets in the London poetry scene. And I remember its early days of when it was in this like small intimate cafe space, and has now grown and evolved into this amazing platform, which I'm proud to have said like I was there from the beginning, or almost from the beginning. We have the amazing Meredith today. Heart emoji hand thing. And I think, did I come to the first or I came to one, I'm not the very first, but I think I came to
one of the ones when we opened back up after the pandemic.
Yeah. How was that like for you in terms of, you know, the pandemic? Like what was London like for you as someone who's like not from here and, you know, I was already finding, you know, London a new space to live in?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah. Okay, so I moved to London in 2013. So I've been here 10 years. So I know London before the pandemic, when things were kind of affordable. And I knew London during the pandemic, which was incredibly interesting. Yeah. And now in our brave new worlds, how did I find it like moving from where I was before?
Yeah, like I think you were in Manchester before.
I was, you remembered, yeah. Manchester.
How tight the Manchester.
I mean, the whole experience of moving transatlantically is incredibly interesting, particularly when, for me, because I'm an insider-outsider, so I can speak the language. And I kind of have a British ancestry.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But yeah, so on my dad's side, they're Scottish and Irish.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You've been to Scotland?
And I have actually, yeah. When my dad was still able to fly, we brought him over and we actually went to, our family has like, our clan has a castle. The Elliot clan has a castle.
I love that you said you have you're a clan.
We do. So cool. We do. It's amazing. Yeah. And we drove all the way up to, it's near Hadrian's Wall.
Okay,
and so
yeah. In textbooks and things.
The Elliot clan have a castle there, and it's very derelict and
like
spooky, broody place to go. It's absolutely, and it's all gated and fenced off and stuff like that. And I just remember giving my dad a boost over the fence. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, phooey, I really wanted to go closer," and I was like, "Well, it's technically ours. Let's go."
Yeah.
So me and my sister were giving him a boost up and over the fence. That was hilarious. Enjoyed that. So the Elliots so my dad's side of the family, the Elliots were border ravers. So ravers, always been ravers in the family. And what that meant was that by dark the night, they would use Hadrian's Wall to hide behind. And then they would jump over the wall and go and rob all the English homesteads of the rich, wealthy English people, steal their silverware, their cattle, everything. Okay. There's logs of when little Jock Elliot went and what he's stolen and what they managed to get back and what they didn't.
Oh, it's nice to have like some sort of record. And
absolutely. So we've been causing problems here for a very long time.
Scotland was not happy about trying like being part of the UK and things like that.
No,
so
it was awful.
They've always been fighting.
Yeah, they were forcibly voluntold to join. So I've kind of come back to the homeland in that sense. And so what was it like? Yeah, it was different. It was interesting. I felt like I was kind of reconnecting with that side of my family. And then my mom's side of my family, German Jews.
Okay.
And my grandfather actually escaped Nazi Germany, came to England and London in particular. He was a musician and a composer. In fact,
wow.
yeah.
There's music in your genes. So yeah.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, when the war broke out, because he was German, they said you can't live here anymore, and they arrested him for being German. He was like, no, I'm on your side. And they were like, never mind, come with us. Bring a toothbrush and your coat, you'll be a while.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's a history of that around, even in America.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's how he got to Canada. They had prisoner of war camps in Canada, and that's where my grandfather stayed for a while, writing music, in fact. And then when the war was over and he was allowed out and about, he wanted to stay in Canada. He loved it. He met my grandmother. He was a pianist most of his life. Yeah.
Have you heard his music on, like, is it sheet music or is it just recordings?
Yes, I have. Yes. My dad, who's a musician, is able to play my grandfather's music for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is really touching. There's old recordings of it. You can look him up if you're interested. Freddie Grant.
Freddie Grant. Oh, that's such a cool name. Like,
he made it himself. Yeah. I think originally his name was Moses something. He's changed it a couple times. So everybody worked really, really hard to escape war and persecution and plague and pestilence to get to Canada. And I turned 25, graduate with a teaching degree, and say to myself, I'm going to go right back into that huge dumpster fire that everybody else is trying to leave. I want to go see what is this all about? What is this fuss all about? So it was really interesting. The vernacular is completely different in Manchester.
Oh, yeah. They have dialect slang.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to understand somebody speaking your language, you can't understand them.
Okay.
It's incredibly interesting. And it really makes you think about, just how other ways to communicate. And so when I go back home, people tell me I have a bit of a British accent. But I've picked up all the Mancunian slang. Basically, I've learned all of the bad habits from Manchester and London.
I mean, what's bad about having Manchester? Like, how is it bad?
Definitely the swearing.
Oh, okay.
For a while there, I picked up the truly funky habit of rolling your own cigarettes, which didn't impress anybody back home.
Pre-made, like, in stores.
Yeah, absolutely. I went through.
It's so much cheaper, though.
I know, it's so much cheaper, right? Yeah. There we go. And then you can put menthol tips in there.
And it's a life skill. Well, not a life skill, but I mean, it's a skill that you've learned. I think it's an art form in itself.
Absolutely.
And it makes you self-reliant.
Okay.
In a way. So there's
okay.
Anything where you do something for yourself, I think is always a plus. So,
okay, fair. Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad habit at all.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
I went through a bit of a roadman phase for a while as well.
Tracksuits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Big puffer jackets.
It's cold up there. You know?
Yes. Yeah. Precisely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, right down to like the haircut and the trainers and the. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Though I must say, your haircuts have always been cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. How do you, like, what do you ask for? Do you just kind of like...
Honestly, my stylist and we work together as a team. So they're in Open Barbers.
Okay, cool.
And they're in Angel. They're called Shades N1 in Angel.
Oh, cool.
They're amazing. Yeah. They're two brothers and they're hilarious. They're like, they mither each other like an old... Mither. There you go. There's a Mancunian word.
Okay, mither.
Like an old married couple.
Okay.
So you get this comedy double act while you're getting your hair done, and it's just really nice. And you can... But I get a whole bunch of pictures off the internet. And we go through all the pictures together. And then we're like, we'll take some of this and some of that and some of that. Okay, and then, yeah, absolutely. And then after a while, he just takes the scissors and wings them around in the air and goes, I'll have a crack at it. We'll see what happens. Who knows? And I'm like, wee. And then he'll start to cut and I'll be like, no, I changed my mind. So, I mean, yeah, we basically just fuck around, fuck about and find out. And usually something cool happens.
I mean, it's always been cool, but I've always like experimented. I've had some really atrocious haircuts, but I mean, you know, I think sometimes like it's just how you wear it, like confidence.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
Even with like people's individual style, like to someone it might be bad, like someone's got a bad dress sense, but if someone like is very confident about it,
yes,
and just they kind of invoke a swagger in just how they wear it.
Absolutely.
So there's no such thing as bad.
You're right. To paraphrase Dolly Parton, she says, "Figure out who you are and do it on purpose, confidently."
Yeah.
And I think it's that, right? I woke up like this. I meant to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Big up Dolly Parton.
Yes, absolutely.
Jolene, right?
Oh, absolutely, Jolene. And 9 to 5. That's my favorite. If there's 9 to 5 on the karaoke, I'll be down for that.
Oh yeah, I do love a bit of karaoke actually. We've not done karaoke. That's something we need to do.
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
Okay, when I come back, we'll set up a clandestine karaoke, invite only. See, look at this. I'm already starting to plan events.
Actually, I've got clips of like poets singing karaoke. When you just sing karaoke, like it's like, you know, not giving an F about like how you sound, and it's just about just having fun, and it's just a different type of vulnerability.
Yes,
I think.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. Good.
What was like Canada growing up?
Oh,
obviously it's colder than London, and we always complain about weather, but Canada gets inches of snow. It's probably more colder there.
I grew up in Canada in the 80s.
Okay.
So I was born in 1980. So I got the full Canadian, and most of it was Toronto as well too. But I was actually born in a small working class town outside of Niagara Falls. You know, the big waterfalls. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I was born. I've always lived around the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario. Yeah, but you get this lake effect flurries, or lake effect furies, as we can call it, and it's just all the snow comes and just dumps on you. So you could end up with several feet of snow overnight. It goes down to minus 40, call it 40 below.
Okay.
There's been New Year's Eves where I've stood outside and I can feel like the moisture in my nose starting to get cold. You can feel it like kind of icing.
Oh, wow.
And your eyes as well, any mucous membranes. Really, you can start to feel it like getting cold and starting to ice.
That's when it gets dangerous, right?
It's incredibly dangerous. Yeah, you can die easily. The best thing to do is get some hot water or even boiling water and throw it in the air when it's really, really cold at night, and it actually turns into like snow.
Oh, really cool.
And ice. Yeah, absolutely. So it's fun. It's beautiful. We have fun with it. You can pee your name in the snow. That's fun for all of the genders. Yeah. So we have a little song called "Don't Go Where the Huskies Go, and Don't You Eat That Yellow Snow." We're kind of quirky.
No, I mean,
quirky people.
Canadians are essentially closer to, like the idea of like, you know, like British culture compared to Americans. Everyone compares Americans to British people, but Canadians have almost a direct line to British, because obviously it being a
Britain and France. You're talking about settlers.
Oh, settlers, yeah.
Yes. So the people who settled in Canada, people who went and stole land from indigenous populations, they have direct ties to to France and England and other parts of Europe as well. And all around the world now, actually. Many. Canada is really multicultural, and that's one of the things I was blessed with. I grew up in a very multicultural neighborhood as a very, very young child. So I've always been comfortable and surrounded by different languages, and to the point where if I'm in a space where everybody looks the same or is samey, I'm more uncomfortable there.
I know what you mean. It's like, is homogenous the right word?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think whenever I step out of London, I always feel a bit weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
A place like Birmingham, and I've been to Manchester once, where it's like multicultural.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, you know, so many different, you know, types of people.
Yeah.
Like you just feel at home, and you feel more safer because everyone's there. Everyone is more used to seeing everyone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you go into the middle of a country and there's like one type of person there.
Yes. Like why
the difference is more pronounced.
Absolutely. Like why are you flocking together? What do you have to hide? Are you protecting something? Hiding something? Do you know, is this like a gated community, but we can't see the gate, but it's actually there?
Yeah.
And if so, that's incredibly problematic because you are shouting into an echo chamber. Anytime you say anything, there's no opportunities to learn, amplify, and grow, which has always been my personal motto. So, and I think that segues nicely into Speakeasy, because that's always been the vision for Speakeasy.
Yeah.
Is different viewpoints. As long as nobody is rationalizing hate speech, then different viewpoints are not only welcome but encouraged, because I don't know what I don't know. And I've always said this about the spoken word community in London in particular. Out of all of the communities I've been, really, this one sticks out the most for me in terms of you learn so much in a 3 to 5 minute poem. Questions that are inappropriate for me to go and ask somebody, they willingly spin a web of it on stage beautifully and vulnerably for me to understand.
Exactly, yeah.
And obviously too for them to express. But I've just been ever so grateful. I've learned to be a better ally, a better listener, much more sensitive person. And, you know, I grew up in the education system. I've got safe space training. I've got diversity training. My thesis in uni was anti-racism education. It was a training package for teachers. So, you know, you think you know it all, but you don't.
Yeah. In the poetry community, there's people from representing communities I've not known as much about, and you learn it through their pieces, and then, you know, everyone has their own perspective of like being an outsider.
Yeah.
You know, especially in a country such or a city such as London, where you know the majority is like, you know, white.
Absolutely, it's systemic. Like the system is taken on its own personality.
It is, yeah. And it's crazy. I think in the last few years, we've seen things being taken or being attempted to be taken.
Absolutely, taken, withheld, threatened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And poetry is one way of kind of, you know, shedding light on these issues.
Absolutely.
And what I love about Speakeasy is that you welcome all these types of people. They share their truth, and they are usually like poets like Aaliyah, who is very vocal about politics. You've got people like Hunter. Hunter has a piece, is it
the
Bathroom
Police? Yes.
That was one of the first pieces I think I remember hearing from them. And like Hunter's now just moving into these spaces now. And headlining, doing poetry events. And I remember meeting Hunter at your event, and then also Karim, and like everyone that I've met from one of the early days of Speakeasy is now flourishing and blooming into amazing artists in their own right, and that's something that they can thank Speakeasy for.
Thank you. Yeah, that was always the plan. It was always a way to. It's hard to get yourself into the being featured, headlined. It's hard to make noise about yourself when no noise is being made about you. So I never went around looking for people who are successful to draw in business. That was never the point, because that's already been done. Exactly. So my thought was always find the people that just need that little bit of that push. They need that chance in the spotlight, you know, to get their wings. And off they go. And it's happened for so many people, and it's absolutely beautiful. In fact, when I was a guest at the National Poetry Library. You made the video for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know, thank you for letting me.
That
be
was
part
so
of
much
it.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I need to do more videos like that.
Yes, you do. You really do. I would definitely put that on my vision board if I were you. But yeah, the way they described us in their program is Speakeasy is a platform for up and coming poets, often left out of the mainstream.
And I think there are a lot of lanes that we don't occupy, or they are occupied, but they're not showcased as much.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so wonderful watching people's trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talked about Hunter. She's going to go amazing places. Aspar is
Love
another
Aspars.
one. Yeah. I'm trying to think who else. Karim.
Love Karim.
Absolutely.
I think Karim was a standout for me, but just because I love poetry.
Yeah.
And he writes so beautifully and eloquently and elegantly. And I love his notebook. Like, just the way he writes on the page is like, usually people write on the line and they just go left to right, but he writes in a format where like it takes shape, literally a physical shape.
Yeah.
And he has a very like gentle and calming presence about him.
He sure does.
And I think there needs to be more people like him, just because life is so busy, and we are then we kind of absorb that, and then we become erratic and busy.
Absolutely.
But we need more people like him, so that you know, if I was surrounded by more people like him, I think I'd be less on edge.
There you go. Interesting. Yeah, I think me too. He's quite a meditative person.
Yeah. Have you guys meditated together?
Every time I'm with Karim, it's like meditating, to be honest with you. Yeah. Yeah. It's just an incredibly special friendship.
I really love that friendship, and there's a few friendships in poetry that I've come across, and yours is one of those that just, you know, makes me feel like, oh, that's so blessed that you can actually find that. And I love that you both go on walks.
Every Monday, unless one of us is ill or it's absolutely raining, like
sometimes
miserably.
It's fun to walk in the rain.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have many a time run between the raindrops, I say.
There's Federica as well. I've met Federica through yours.
Absolutely.
There's a few other poets. I can't remember their names, but there was one poet I was talking about that had a poem about an alarm clock or alarm on their phone, and that piece was just so hilarious and so entertaining for me.
Okay, I'm trying to remember now.
I can't remember her name. It was like one of the. It was like in the cafe, the vegan cafe.
Yeah, VE6 early days, VE6.
VE6, shout.
So I mean, I could sit here and name drop all day.
Yeah. Speakeasy has been an amazing place for cultivating that kind of talent.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who else? Empath Joe's another one.
Empath Joe, yes.
Started hosting with us, and now she's got her own event that she hosts.
I've not been to it. There's so many events that I know are happening that I've not gone around to. Like, what's
it would be impossible to get around to them. So when I started making the list, I actually tried to make a 3-month schedule for myself to see if I could get around to all of them. It would have to be 4 because some of them are quarterly. But I managed to kind of feel like you would literally be out about 3 or 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
Every single week. I would be broke.
That's a lot of money and travel.
Absolutely. I would be very financially poor, but I think cerebrally wealthy. But I just could never figure out how to do it. So, I mean, I already barely sleep. So it's like for me. You're not a sleeper either.
No, I mean, you can call me at like 3, 4 in the morning, and I'm pretty sure I'll be awake.
Okay, that's good to know.
I was gonna ask, like, apart from poetry, like, what do you enjoy doing, pastime, for leisure, like hobbies wise? Do you have any? Like,
what am I like when I'm not poeming? That's something that's been a really big question for me, because it used to be. I've been a teacher for 20 years, and I have just retired from education, from the education system. I'll always be an educator. Yeah. But I am definitely trying to think about what the other things out there, because teaching is, and I taught in primary school as well, so you're teaching every single subject, and you are, you're a nurse, a lawyer, a judge, jury, You are an entertainer. You are all of these hats on constantly, and it exhausts you. And year in and year out, and year in and year out, it's exhausting. And particularly because I was in year 6 the last couple of years. I was in year 6 in the beginning of my career, and then year 6 in the end of my career. And the trouble with year 6 is it's so focused on SATs that you end up spending most of the time on reading and writing and maths, and then reading about maths, and then writing about maths, and then writing about reading. And it's just, you get a little bit of time somewhere in the day for some exercise, and maybe for some emotional health, or maybe something creative. And it's just, it's not enough. It's just simply not enough. So I think that sucked a lot out for me.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that I was so good at it. And not only was I was good at it because I was so driven. I wanted every single child to be as successful as possible leaving primary school education, because we know that there's so many studies have been done. The results that you get in your year 6 SATs actually will pretty much guarantee you where you're going to go in life, how you're treated, what doors are opening, what opportunities there are. Somebody did a study about people in jail and the marks that they got in year 6. And these are not simply academic things either. There's a lot more, going back to what we were talking about earlier about systemic racism and other systems of oppression. And for me, particularly working in East Ham, where I was one of very few white people in the school, it is incredibly important to me to be able to get these kids as fast and furious as they could before releasing them into the wilds. And because I come from that privilege, if I know this system that they're always going to be running against, and give them some sort of like insider tips whilst trying to dismantle that system a little bit.
Yeah.
And it becomes exhausting, and it becomes taxing, and you start thinking, I have a batch of 30 children that I cook. Yeah. And that batch comes fresh out of the oven every July. That's only 30. And I help the other classes around me. And I do some whole school events. And yes, I make a big difference, but I need to make a bigger difference. And so I have started to get into, I'm brushing up on my tech skills. I've always been a nerd, and I just really want to go back to my nerdy computer science days. We're talking about Tamagotchis and all of these other, the old school tech.
Just more internet, Excel.
Everything, every single layer. I've started right back at the basics, the history of hardware, and then going into software and going into cloud and going into, for a number of reasons, because I want to be able to control my own tech with my own projects. And I want to be able to do project management for companies, as well as continue with the workshopping I have. So I want to be able to have just a handle on all of that stuff.
Just kind of wear multiple hats.
Absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely. And as I get, and this is a long-term goal, but as I get more proficient in those skills, I'm going to continue working towards cybersecurity analyst, ethical hacking, eventually, like the pinnacle, the big goal for me is, I'm manifesting now because I'm actually saying this out loud in public for the first time. I want to take down human traffickers, because working where I work with the children and in that community, I've had a lot of prevent training, and I've heard about and seen some pretty fucked up shit. Yeah. And there's vulnerable families, and I can protect those vulnerable families in small groups, and I can add to the paper trail for those children so that when they get a little bit older, the things will be in place for them. I can help tighten those safety nets. But it's like, this is what I described it to my friend. If you spill a glass of water and it's dripping off the edge, would you fix the spill by just catching all the drips? No, you wouldn't. You'd come to the source of that spill and you would wipe that down. And so what I really want to do is I want to go after the bad guys.
That's it reminds me of there's a couple of YouTubers. They're kind of like, I don't know if they're hackers, but they kind of go after people that do scams.
Yes.
I don't know where I would begin. Like, so in terms of like cutting out the source, is it just tracking where their base of operations is, or just?
There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can go in as a decoy. You can go in with some intel. You can yeah, that's classified. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. Lots of different people. There are vigilante groups that go and do it. Obviously, government organizations, and then you've got obviously the private sector that is trying to protect all of their wealth, because heaven forbid it accidentally be redistributed. You know, all it's going to take is a couple Robin Hoods, and things could really, really change in this world. That would be interesting. I don't think that's a job for me.
Yeah.
Particularly not going to say that on camera in front of everyone, just in case later.
Everything is just hypothetical.
Hypothetical, the whole thing, really.
Yes,
Who
this
knew?
whole podcast is hypothetical.
Who knew? I wouldn't tell you if I robbed all the rich people, but there would be signs.
But there are like hackers that are kind of like activists as well. They kind of like do causes.
Yeah, activists,
and hacktivists.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's going to be great for me, and as well too, because I need to have a nomadic lifestyle. I've already got rid of almost every single thing that I own. I've got 2 suitcases and 2 duffel bags, and all of my worldly possessions.
Your life is just in those bags.
Is all in there. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll still be based in the UK. My address is in the UK.
Yeah.
But I will be able to visit my aging relatives. My girlfriend in Vancouver, Canada. I'll be able to travel a little bit more. Yeah. I'll be able to, I mean, you could be going back, you could go back to the Philippines. You could be like, hey, I'm going to be in, I don't know, Manila at this time. And I'll be like, oh, cool, I'll meet you there. And then we could both just be like working side by each.
I would love to be digital nomads. I would love to do that. And hopefully I have enough money to fly to the Philippines, because that's just expensive. But
I could see you doing, actually. I could see you being a digital nomad.
I mean, at one point I was studying copywriting so that I could be a digital nomad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, really cool.
But I did a copywriting course. I finished it. But then I just didn't know how to get work, and then I found poetry, literally just going into 2020. So and then obviously this took off, so that's been in the back burner.
Interesting.
But I would love to do copywriting some more.
Do it. The money is actually in copy editing textbooks and manuals.
Yeah.
Which is something I would probably, I'll get into that definitely as a side hustle. Yeah. But that's where it is, because it's very jargon heavy. Nobody wants to edit that kind of stuff. My cousin edits he's copy editor. He edits really interesting things, but he's got a film degree from film writing degree.
Oh, cool.
From UCLA. And he now edits scripts, which is really interesting. So it could be like a cooking show one day and another show another day. You need to, it's just like everything else. It's how often who you know and whatnot, and not what you know. You need to like find out where are the people that you want to pick their brains about. Where are the people doing the things that you want to do? And just be there. And just show up. Kind of like you're going referencing back to Dolly Parton, and just be the thing that you're trying to be. Yeah. Rather than trying to think about. Absolutely. Being. And I've said it in previous podcasts, like, you don't need to know everything. You just need to kind of like get the experience and just be in the thick of it. And I think you just need to be interested. I think once there's a passion, the knowledge will come with the passion. Yeah, it just comes over time. It will, absolutely. As long as people are patient with themselves, that's what learning is all about. Yeah, for sure. Like I think I said to Haroon, like, you're never too old to learn anything new. You just have to. Exactly. And we reinvent ourselves every day from the time we decide to do new things and stuff. Cool. So yeah, I think if anyone wants to take anything from whatever I'm doing, is like, try everything.
you might not be good at first, but no one starts from like 100. Everyone starts from 0.
Absolutely.
But you are starting with experience.
Absolutely.
Right? So
there's a whole grid thing where it's like you can have somebody who's really excited, but very little understanding of it, and their trajectory goes a certain way with learning, and then you can have someone who's actually quite experienced, but it's kind of not really got their heart in it, and that trajectory is completely different. And so when I left teaching, it was really nice because there was another teacher who had just come into the profession, and she was training at our school, and I really wanted her to get a job in the school, like really, really wanted. So just before I resigned, I messaged her and I said, you never heard it from me, but get your CV ready. I know it's quite early before people are actually hiring, but I said, hand your CV in anyways. They're going to tell you they're not accepting any applications right now. Like, just do it anyways. Just do it anyways. And of course, I've left and she's taking over. And she has the energy and the gumption and the passion and the grit and the determination. Those, I don't have those things anymore. I'm done. I think I mentally checked out a little while ago.
That's okay, because I think it comes in cycles, right, where we occupy spaces, and then once, we've, like, life does have a jading effect, but if you see someone else that can take the reins and can do it with the same kind of passion you had before.
Absolutely.
I think we have to give up those spaces for other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. You need to make room for fresh, new, young people.
Yeah, young people.
Yeah. Make space.
Future, it's
absolutely. So. Make space for them. Give them a chance, and then go back to being a student yourself, a young person yourself. I'm so much happier with my new schedule. I can, because obviously I don't like to sleep at night for some reason. I can now have naps during the day.
Oh, naps are a new thing I've discovered.
Oh my God.
In my 30s.
Right?
It's a thing.
Right?
Naps are
They're
amazing.
Brilliant. I actually, if you look up famous creative people and their sleep cycles, you will find some really interesting people who either live in a series of naps or they'll have like a short sleep and a long sleep.
I'm that one, the short and long sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm about half and half. Okay. I'll do like a 4 and a 3.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Cool. Or a 2 and a 3 or 2 and a 4, but I can't. My body just doesn't want to be inactive for that long, I think. Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, that means that my entire life I've battled insomnia, which means that you're battling anxiety, which means that you're battling depression. And it's a trifecta, and it's kind of like chicken or egg. What's come first? What's affecting it? What do we tackle first, right? Yeah. And for me, I think choosing sleep is the most important thing over anything. Yeah. Now that I can adapt my sleep schedule to my new life, my blood pressure's gone down. People have told me, like, I've met neighbors on the street. They've told me I look much younger. It's interesting. Yeah. My ability to cope with things now versus even a month or 2 months ago is incredible. Some people contacted me the other day about, oh, this has happened. Are you distressed? Are you okay? How can we help? Kind of, I was like not bothered. My heart rate didn't even go up. And I was like, okay, that's interesting.
I find most creatives do feel more young at heart despite their age. And I think that's just because we're used to, like you said, going back to being students again, and then also being a bit more open to unpredictability.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question.
Because when you're growing up, you're always your life's always unpredictable. It's like you're being in your teens and stuff.
It's a paradox, though, because creative people are always reflecting. We're reflecting on our own work in relation to others, what we're going to do, constantly reflecting, which keeps us in that learning, exploring child life mode.
I love that.
At the same time, it gives you a tremendous amount of wisdom. So you become an old soul and a new soul simultaneously. And you tap into those two different, like, forget left brain and right brain. Yeah. I'm going young brain and old brain. And you tap into those two different bits as and when needed. And over time it becomes just a natural way that your brain and your body works, and you listen to yourself when the old and tired part says we're old and tired now. Just because we're free doesn't mean we need to make ourselves available. Let's turn everything else off and let's be horizontal. Let's not answer the phone. And so I go through these periods of like, nobody can find me, nobody can get hold of me, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm safe, I'm an adult, it'll be fine. I also go through these periods where you'll see me everywhere, doing all the things. Like, I can't get enough of it. Not just performing myself, going and watching other people. Sometimes it's just so nice to go and like sneak in the back and just be there to enjoy.
You hit something on the nail. I would love that kind of idea of just reclaiming time for yourself.
Yeah.
And then also this other idea that I had about just, I also wish I could go back to a time where I could go to poetry events and no one knew me. Does that make sense? Because that idea of just, when I was an audience member, just taking in the poetry and not having to perform, but just enjoying it. And then also just kind of being left alone. I love everyone in the poetry scene, don't get me wrong. But, you know, there's this thing about just, you know, when you're first starting out, the anonymity.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just being able to just enjoy the poetry event without people coming towards you and just taking in everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you and I both had the benefit of, because we run events, but the events aren't us, they're not our names. No. So people might not know us by name or by face, that they know the event.
Yeah.
And so over time, people start, okay, now, I see that we can merge these two things now.
Yeah.
But the best part was at the beginning when people didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that so much better. I went to great lengths to keep Meredith away from Speakeasy. So it was just kind of like, anonymous. Who is behind Speakeasy? Nobody knows. And when nobody knew who I was, I would get messages, DMs, and it would be, hey, bro. What? Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, they always assume it's
absolutely. Right? Yeah. It was really interesting. I loved it. I'd be like, hey, bro, back. Yeah, what's up? Send a little punch emoji. I was like, yes, I'm loving this. I got to be genderless. Truly, for the first time, I got to be genderless. And I do feel very genderless. It's not, I just don't subscribe to it. I know it's important, incredibly important to some people. Life-affirmingly important to some people. It doesn't really fit for me. Yeah. It's not a thing. I'm just not bothered about it. So I really had that euphoria with it. And then over time, then people would, instead of Meredith, they instead of saying, oh, you're Meredith, they, oh, you're Speakeasy. No, I'm not. We are all Speakeasy.
We are all Speakeasy.
We are all Speakeasy. Anybody who's ever look kindly sideways at Speakeasy is Speakeasy. That's the whole point. It's not just one person, it's a collective. And it goes anywhere. And
you are a platform.
That's the vibe. Yeah, absolutely. It's the vibes. That's the whole point. So you take those Speakeasy vibes and you bring them to another event. Yeah. It's literally, you know what I mean? It's now everyone, everywhere, all at once.
And then those people infect those people in a good way.
Absolutely.
Vibes
Absolutely. And that is what has helped so much. It's all been like, all the advertising has been word of mouth.
Yeah.
And people inviting people. And that's what's kept that that family vibe. Because in early days, it was DM for the guest list. And I need to be able to look through your Insta account and see who you are, because it's not going to be safe if I don't know who you are. I want to know who's coming to my house. And over time, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it got harder and harder for me to be 100% confident. I knew if shit hit the fan once somebody was up there, I had no doubt in my ability to be able to go and haul them off. But sometimes the damage is already done by that point, and I just grateful. Thank you. Very grateful that that's never happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, things got big. Things started to feel too big.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, because obviously Speakeasy has evolved or has become bigger since we both have, since I was last there. But as I run events, I kind of do appreciate the intimacy, and that's why I'm kind of going back to the intimate events.
Yes, you have.
and there's something about it just kind of like I heard this term a few months ago, spiritual hygiene.
Oh,
where, like, you know, just like how you said you would like have people DM you if they wanted to come through, and you kind of had to vet them before, and I think that's so important to kind of make sure that the space is like safe, but also just like-minded, kindred people, just, you know, vibing. And I got that with Trees with Roots' event called Art is My Therapy, which is happening. My Scratch Night event is happening in the same space, and because that space I felt very safe in that space. I thought maybe I can bring that in the same space because I felt it there.
Yes.
But yeah, there's something about I do love that you actually brought that to people, because I think we need to go back. It's in cycles, right? Events get bigger, but then I think we have to go back to being small again.
What's so great about London is that there is literally any kind of poetry event you want to do. There's people who will be keen on it. You want 13 people like messing about informally on a couch? Boom, done. You want painting and free shots with it? Looking at you, JKH. And right? You want that? That's fine. Like, I mean, you could probably have a poeming and trampolining event at some point. You've got your cinema.
Yeah, cinematic verses with Jax. Jax is an amazing poet, and she does an amazing stuff for the community we're on our side of London as well. So it's really amazing.
That's brilliant. I just think it's so incredibly important. There's a poetry supper club.
Really?
Yes.
Is that unheard poetry, or is that something?
It's not unheard poetry. It's actually, do you know Jenny?
Oh, the one that was at...
Haiku Jenny.
Yeah.
Yes, the one that always does the haikus.
I love haikus.
She's... absolutely. And Sanrio's. She's a neighbor of mine, and she's always been coming to Speakeasy, and it's her friend. I can send you the details if you're interested, just to have a little nosy. Yeah, they do a poetry supper club.
Wow, okay.
Every so often they meet up. I just think that that's the beauty of London, is that there's something for everybody, and if there isn't, you can make one, and then you too can have the thing that you're looking for.
Be the change you want to
be the change. Exactly. But I'm really looking forward to going back to Canada. Nobody's going to know me from hole in the ground. And I will, incognito, I'm definitely going to be, and my girlfriend is making me swear to this as well. I'm not allowed to organize anything, join any committees. It's like, you will rest, please rest. She keeps saying, and we're saying it in a joking way, obviously.
I love that.
Because if I did want to take over something, I'm sure she'd be more than supportive. But it's like, just keep saying, Meredith, you've worked so hard, 20 years of your life.
Yeah.
Speakeasy, all of this stuff is now coming to a gentle halt, and it's time to rest and just have a nice summer holiday. So that's my plan, but I will, mark my words, I will quietly go slide in the back of a couple poetry nights.
Yeah, incognito with...
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
Depending on how cold it is.
A false beard and a newspaper with two eye holes cut out. Just to be absolutely certain that nobody's going to be like, hey, I know you.
Life is in terms of like life being a civilian, I call it a civilian life, but you could just enjoy doing normal things and just being. Also, the thing about ending this part of your life and then starting a new one is like you are starting a new one, and that's exciting just to think about that you're going to experience that. There's so many things that are unpredictable in life, and I think that's why I'm happy for people to kind of just be open to an unpredictable but an amazing chapter.
That's true, but don't you find unpredictable things a little bit scary? Don't you feel like it's a bit of a risk?
Oh yeah, but I mean, poetry is that for me every day.
Okay.
But I mean, unpredictable in the sense like completely saying something. Yeah, that is kind of scary. I would probably not sleep at night. Maybe, I'm not sure. But the lovely thing is that you have a partner that to share that with, and it's less scary.
Yeah.
So, what does I don't even know your partner's name.
Leah.
How did you guys meet?
We met in high school.
Oh, yeah, high school sweethearts.
Well, we're not high school sweethearts.
Okay.
I'm a bit older than her, so had we been together in high school, that would have probably been punishable by law. Okay. No, we were. It's not that much of an age difference. Just a couple of years. Yeah, we went to the same high school for 1 year, and then I graduated. She went to a different school. And in that time, we've just always kept up with each other.
Yeah.
And we've got some mutual friends as well, which helped. And then as soon as Facebook and Instagram came back to life, or came into existence, yes, we found each other. I'm saying came back to life because there was MySpace.
I have a MySpace. My MySpace is still up. By the way.
Is it really?
I went on it like maybe 2 or 3 weeks
my
ago,
God.
just out of curiosity. It's still there.
What's your music on it?
I think my music is still on there.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is
but
it
it's
still
like
on
really
there?
bad.
I love it. You don't want to say what it is. Oh, come on. Oh, that's disappointing.
I'll take it to my grave.
There you go. Take it to your grave. Anyways, yeah, no, Leah and I have been friends for 25 years. It was only just before the pandemic. I happened to be traveling on the west coast of Canada. Usually I go back to central, I think Ontario and where my family is. I went to go visit a friend I was in Victoria, which is Vancouver Island. And Leah lives in Vancouver, which is on the mainland.
Yeah.
And I think I put some pictures on Facebook or something. And she sent me a message saying, oh my God, you're so close to me. But in Canada, everything's far. So when she said close, absolutely. Well, it would have been hours and hours ferry. But the thing is, I've always fancied her a little bit. So when she was like, come visit me, really what it was is you're going to be spending a day traveling on a ferry. Or... And my friend Mike Gorman, yes, Mike Gorman was like, hang on a second, you can take a seaplane. Why don't you get this like little, kind of like a small bus, but it goes up in the air. Yeah. You can take a seaplane over, and it lands and takes off on the water. It's got pontoons.
That's really cool.
So cool. So as soon as she invited me over, and it was Pride weekend, which in Vancouver, Pride weekend is actually next weekend.
Oh, wow.
So exactly. So it will be our 4-year anniversary next weekend.
Wow, congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you. So yeah, it's been a long distance relationship ever since, and we've been back and forth and separated by the pandemic. That was pretty shit. But yeah, 4 years. And so I will be, all my stuff is in some bags and suitcases right now. I'll be showing up at her place. Today's Friday. I will be showing up at her place Sunday night. So when you go to bed Sunday night, you're thinking about me.
You'll be with your
I'll
loved
be,
ones.
exactly. Yeah. I've just landed, and I'm going to spend some good quality time. Just take some time out of life to spend some good quality time with her, because it's always been fast and furious. We visited each other a lot, but it's also always that sense of time in an hourglass, and time's running out. And it would be really nice not to have that sensation right now, and to just focus on everything we've worked for over the last 4 years, to actually be able to sit there and just reap what we've sowed. I think the expression is the fruits of our labor. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And I think that is going to create some neural pathways for me for creativity, and just exploring sort of what do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? If I grow up.
Is the idea of like growing up is like, I feel like, we're there. Like, because obviously me being 36, I'm like, am I a grown up? Or do I still need growing to do? Do I still have growing to do? Like, it's a concept.
What do you think a grown up is? Because I always ask my pupils this. What does a grown up do that a non grown up doesn't do?
I was thinking of the classical sense, like, you know, my parents' generation with like getting a house and getting a mortgage and that kind of thing. But now I think it's being shaped differently in terms of just being self-reliant, having agency.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What about for you?
I still can't figure it out, because I did. I went through a period of time where I did want to be grown up, and I had this very, cookie cutter idea of what a grown up looks like, to the point where, I married a man. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to buy a house. And then somewhere in all of that, I completely lost myself. I was like, I never wanted all of these things. And then I got to a certain age, and then there were pressures, and I saw other people, and I thought, oh, I guess I need to grow up and stop messing about. And I was incredibly unhappy at that time. I mean, I was happy because I found happiness in the things I was doing and people I had around me. But yeah, my husband and I we were just like, this doesn't make any sense for either of us. We're still friends. He's got a beautiful wife. They have a kid. I go visit them every once in a while. We have lunch.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. It's wonderful. And I have my life that feels right as well. And I think we need to be very careful about these preconceived notions about what growing up means, what a grown up is, what a grown up does or doesn't do. Because you start making these, I should be this by this time and that by that time.
Comparing your life with other people's.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much. Or you just sort of, you overprogram yourself, really, and then you're not allowing for any flip slides and turns that might happen along the way. And there's so many things that I was aspiring towards that didn't bring me joy. And you know that you're in the wrong place because you're not happy now, but you think I will be happy when I have. And that's when you're like, hang on a second. Or you're always feeling like you're healing, but you never actually heal. It's like you keep setting these goals for yourself that they're not attainable because it's not you.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's my one cautionary tale about growing up, and the sense that, okay, now I've achieved everything I can stop, and that's when people stop learning, and that's when you get old people saying, I'm old. Oh, in my day.
I hear you.
Oh, why should I have to? Especially baby boomer generation now, they're all like, oh, I'm old. It was like, you lived through the civil rights movement and suddenly you're completely incapable of learning certain things. The younger generation are saying this is important to us. Like, hang on a second. If that's what growing up is, I don't want it.
When you subscribe to being old, your mindset is like just kind of immalleable. Like, like we've been talking about, just being young and young people just keep learning. And I think most of the people that I think are older than me are actually much younger than me because they have that mindset of just like they have still so much to learn. They don't subscribe to like, I'm old, I should be doing this. Like they stay, being themselves, and they live the life that they want to live rather than what is kind of like socially acceptable or seen as the right way to live.
That's beautiful. I love that.
The idea of even just the term lifestyle, like it's how you style your life, like a hairstyle.
Ooh,
like
I love it.
Your life is literally what you make it. You ornate, you add decorations, you ornate in a certain way, or you wear it a certain way. Your life is how you wear it, and it's completely up to you. It's your choice, as long as you're not hurting anyone. Like it's whether you have a house, whether you have kids, whether you don't, whether you want to be an artist, whether you want to subscribe to a 9 to 5. Some people are actually happy with a general 9 to 5, and some people are okay with being an artist, and there's no right or wrong way to live, to be fair. So
absolutely. What did you say? If you're happy, if it feels good and it's not hurting anybody else, then keep doing it. I think that was definitely the motto of the 1960s, the hippie generation. Which I was absolutely fascinated with the hippie culture, the 60s and 70s. When I was in high school in the 90s, definitely, I lived in two worlds because I had the 90s grunge, hip hop, techno. I had all of that amazing stuff, DJs, Beastie Boys. I had all of that in the 90s, but I also could go back through prior decades. So I've got a really extensive knowledge in things like disco, classic rock from the 60s and 70s, hair bands, and even like way back into the 20s and 30s with jazz and blues. Because anytime it was sort of a slow news day for new music, or if I didn't have enough money to go and buy the CD, then I would just go find something in somebody's, some old people's records, and
find
at
gems.
the time of my life going through people. My dad's got an extensive record collection, and he'll talk your ear off about it all, and I just absorbed all of it.
Yeah. What was like an important album for you growing up, like, or an artist really? Because music is a very important. Well, for me, it was very important growing up.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna say Aretha Franklin and Janis Joplin. I channeled their spirits growing up. Absolutely, they were incredibly near and dear to me. Both of them. Yeah, I would say, off the top of my head right now, those are the two biggest ones. But I think that the civil rights movement in America really struck me. Really, really struck me. And all the music that came up out of the anti-Vietnam sentiment, protest music, it became a thing. And that's like, I've got goosebumps now just talking about it. I feel like I was there. I was there, and something happened, and then I was reborn January 7, 1980. But I'm telling you, I was there in the 60s and 70s. Absolutely. Yeah,
music has that magic of like, music is like literally a time capsule. And either it works in two ways, like it brings you to a time when it was the decade or the year that it was being created and being made, and then also the time where you were living in when you were listening to it. So yeah, that's actually absolutely. And when you listen to the lyrics and then you go and research some of those lyrics, like it's really interesting turns of phrase that aren't used anymore. And you go back in and you're like, oh, that's what that actually means. Especially if you look at world music, you look at reggae and the early reggae, like bebop and rock steady, and you listen to some of the, and it's just mind blowing music that on the surface seems to have one message. And then you go and research a little bit more and you're like, wow, there are some really creative subtleties. And I think with music these days, I think some of that subtleties, because it's produced for the masses much more these days, I think people miss some of the subtleties and the opportunities for subtleties because you want as many people as possible to buy your product. There are still little inside jokes that contemporary artists use these days, and I enjoy those. I do. Hi guys, welcome back to the second part of the podcast, and we have a very special guest today. We have Fiona. Hi Fiona.
Hi, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
And she has a podcast, an Instagram page.
Where.The.Word.Things.Live with full stops in between each word because it's Instagram. Yeah. And it's basically just it's a poetry directory for London specifically at the moment.
Love that.
Started as a blog first and foremost, or sort of a website. I'm doing it on Instagram as well. I'm taking the list over from the wonderful Meredith. And I am, just trying to promote spoken word nights and poetry nights in London because it's very hard to find them.
It is.
It's hard enough to promote a night when you're being paid to do it and you have money behind it. When you're doing it for free and you're doing it for the love of poetry, it's even harder. There are some nights I've only heard about in rumours behind the scenes, and you go, how can I find it? And you have to go on Eventbrite for some person who's not related to the event because they were the person who set it up, and you have to find it from 7 months ago to find if it's still on. And I just decided I was going to just create sort of a massive catalogue and directory of everything that was going on in London, and there's lots of it.
Yeah, that's so true, because I run 3 events, and 2 are usually from Eventbrite, and then the third one, because it's done through the theatre, the tickets are sold through their website. So the one in the theatre is hardly ever seen unless like you're interested in the theatre as a space anyway. So what is your background in poetry? How did you get into poetry?
So I started writing, I think like most poets did, as a teenager. I was depressed and sad, and I had a lot of emotions. And then I sort of took a break for ages. And then when I was at university, I started writing again and started performing weekly, just an open mic in Bangor in North Wales. And it was everyone else was musicians, and I was the only poet. And then eventually I moved to London and was like, kind of stopped writing for ages. I didn't have enough time. It was too expensive, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I found an open call for the Process Productions zine issue 2. They were having an open call for people to submit, and I just thought, that was in about October or November of last year. I just thought, I'll submit. In December, they emailed me to say, we're going to publish one of your pieces, and I was gobsmacked. Yeah. And then they said, it'll be ready in January, but we can't buy it anywhere except at the event. So you have to come. And I said, fine, okay, cool. I want to get back into performing. I want to get back into being on stage and meeting people and making friends. So I went, and I just started, from there on, started going to I've been to every Process since January, and then multiple other nights on top of that, just through, hearing about nights, some people saying, oh, do you want to come to this one? I've been to that, that goddamn poetry jam, because somebody else said to me, if you like Process, you'll like this one. And I've been to so many. I've been to BYOB in Croydon Box Park. I've been to like a bunch of them now, but only because I went to that first one, in a Process.
I love that. This is why I love poetry, because you go to your local, like Meredith has mentioned in the Spotlight video, you go to your local event, you meet poets, then you find out through them other events, and then you kind of go, and then you kind of spread your wings, and then you get a taste of different people and different poetry styles, and it's just like a whole world of exploration. And just like what you're doing with your platform is like you're kind of essentially giving people a menu that people can just dine on, and just like consume words and just ideas and things like that, and just good energy. So I love that you're doing that, and I think it's something that like everyone needs to kind of pay attention to, because like you said, there's some events that are really amazing but no one knows about, and I think just showcasing and spotlighting spaces that people really need to get to, who may feel like underrepresented, just from where they live or their culture, and they don't have a space to kind of, say something,
Yeah, of course.
And you're doing that, and you've done it through Process. I've still yet to go to Process. How's your poetry journey in terms of, meeting the team there, and then, finding your voice as a poet? Like, how are you finding it at the moment? I guess
this year's been the year of exploration, the year of growth, and a year of change in terms of putting pressure on myself to write more and to perform more. And I did the Red Sky sessions by Apples and Snakes last year, which are like free sessions that you can do online, sort of 5 or 6 week, I think, sort of online web courses, and then run by like who was it that ran it? The Peach Pigs. She wrote Peach Pigs. I can't remember her name. Anyway, they're run by really, by like published poets, by famous poets, who are then also bringing in other people that they know to do guest workshops. And it's Cecilia Knapp, that was it. And it's an absolutely, and I did that, and it just opened my eyes to the fact that I need to write. I can't just edit I can't edit anything that's not there. I have to write it first, and it has to be just writing. It doesn't have to be good writing. And from there, I was able to let go of self-pity almost, or like, I was able just to let go of everything that was making my poetry, was holding me back, and was then able to push it forward and be like, oh, actually, there's something good in here, even though it's not great yet. If I sit down and I work at it, it'll change, it'll get better. And I'm just finding that along with just performing regularly also helps. When poetry is meant to be performed, when you're on the stage and you know which bits don't work or do work best, you can then you can then say, oh, actually, that line doesn't really work in a spoken context. Then, therefore, do I need it in the poem? Does it work at all? Am I better with just leaving it out? Or am I better with changing it slightly?
These are the Red Sky.
There we go. Yeah, it was Cecilian Knapp and Vanessa Kinsule were the two that I did.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
Good. That to me as well.
I always like to look up a name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you want to have somebody's name in your mouth, you want to be that space where they're not there. So I always like to look up a name and make sure that people get the kudos where it's deserved. Yeah. Don't mind me. I like to look things up.
My next question was like how you and Meredith met, and just
So it was very fortuitous. I'd created the list originally for a slightly different purpose. I work in a library in a college. I originally created it for students, and I realised it needed to go publicly on the internet. And so I took it and then decided my first thought was to do it as a spreadsheet. And I thought, okay, it doesn't look great. I can do the same thing as I want on the spreadsheet on a blog or a website. And I sort of set it all up, and I was following Spoken Word London and Meredith on Instagram, and was like, well, I've seen Meredith doing this list, so maybe I'll ask Meredith if I can have that list, and I could just keep it as a static thing of like, these are the regular nights that are on, and it just helps me find them initially, because I do deep dives on everyone. So if you've got a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, a Threads, an Eventbrite, a Linktree, a website, I will put a YouTube, I will put all of them on, just because some of them might not be some of them might not be active, some of them might be, but also you want to find it, you might want to make it as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. Some people are just going to see it and go, I want to just buy the ticket straight away because I've heard about the night and I want to go. So Eventbrite or Linktree. Some people are, I want to look up what they're doing, see who they're working with. Okay, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook these days obviously not used as much, but they are still there. They are still used to some degree.
Twitter's now X now.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. But I sort of approached Meredith on Instagram. I just said, hey, any chance I could have that list because I'm doing this thing? And Meredith said, well, actually, I'm actually going to be moving away at some point. I'm not going to be in London. The list that I do on Instagram is probably going to stop. And I was looking for someone to actually take it up. And I just said, well, okay, I'll be quite happy to do that.
It's almost a higher calling.
It really was. I was putting it into the universe, trying to manifest somebody to take it over, because it takes the right kind of person. You have to be neurodiverse. You have to be big on diversity. You have to be quirky. You have to like looking things up. You have to be really, really keen on...
Dedicated. I don't know.
It's very time consuming, and it's very... If you don't like looking at different social media sites or websites and clicking on lots of links and finding out dates, then you're not going to enjoy it. It's going to be a chore and it's not going to happen. But I love cataloguing things. I have 4 neurodivergent disabilities, so I like order. I like making things look pretty. I like, getting information in the right place. So it really spoke to me as something that I wanted to do anyway. And then, of course, I'm not superhuman. I can't go to all these nights. I can't find out about all of them by myself. There has to be some amount of, collaboration. And Meredith was someone who's collated a list for a long time now, and that was just, fortuitous luck, really, that we kind of spoke at the right time. And
I was so grateful. Yeah, we met up almost instantly. We had lunch, didn't we?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then Fiona made herself indispensable again by doing the sound tech.
Oh, yes.
For our event as well. But I mean, after I kind of gave you my handover notes, and there's notes upon notes. So there's like a list of events, and then there's kind of notes about the list and like how long something's gone quiet for when, and if they say when they're coming back. And also notes about, do people respond when you ask them a question?
Oh, in terms of like...
Are they polite? Are they kind? Do they help you? Do they work together?
Yeah.
I don't have anything nasty, but I definitely do have smiley faces next to some people that are absolute joy to work with. So it's all that like handover.
Yeah, it's nice to have this kind of...
stuff,
like,
exactly. And then by the time I'd sent everything and we continued to chat, I felt, my last list, as soon as it was done, I cried. I cried because it's like my baby's growing up.
What month was that list?
So my last list was July,
Okay.
the 1st of July. So it is now all going, was it July?
No, it was yours was the end of June. I did the July list.
July, my last one
the
was
next one is
June.
August, which will be coming up soon.
Yeah, exactly. But it was also, it was relief as well, because I knew it was going to be safe in the right hands. And you have some really cool ideas. You're talking about a map and some other things. Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was, as well as make it kind of accessible, I wanted to do that in the biggest way possible. So to start with, I originally found a list on the Chocolate Poetry Club website, who are sadly no longer running.
Yes.
And they had a map, and they had just a list of boroughs with nights in those boroughs. And I was like, well, they're not running anymore. I'm just going to take that as a basis, look up all of these nights and see if they're still going. So the idea then came to do it on the blog, on the website. It's listed by borough. So you can say, I'm in this area, or I'm close to these areas, or these are the areas I can travel to, and find the nights there, rather than saying, oh, there's this, because every poetry night I attend takes me at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get home from, normally on a weeknight. Yeah. And I go to those nights because I enjoy them, because they're really good. But it's very nice to be able to look at the list and go, oh, there's one that's half an hour away, or there's one that's in the same borough. So even if it takes me an hour, it's still not going to feel that long, or it's still not going to be too long. It's going to be easy. There's going to be no finagling with tubes. And so I decided to do it like that. And then the logical progression from that was to then, well, why don't I make it into a map, like a clickable map? Yeah. So I found a website that allows you to put links, just to drop locations and put links on those locations and information. And I'm still in the process of building it up. It's not completely done yet, but I'm doing that so that basically people can look at it visually and say, okay, well, I don't know, because I've lived in London for 8 years, and I still don't know my way around. I couldn't tell you which boroughs are close to which ones, or which areas are best to go to or closest. So it's just a case of, I can now look at it on a map and go, well, I know my house is here, and then I know there are 5 poetry nights in this kind of radius that I'll go to. Then, because I'm autistic, and because I like organising things, and because I have a very extensive Google Calendar that I use personally, why not just put it on a calendar? Yeah. Because that way then people can look at their calendar and go, oh, this week there are 7 poetry nights. I'm going to choose one to go to, or there's like 3 on this night that I really want to go, there's one that I really want to go to. And it saves then an extra step of having to look it up and go, oh, when was that night on that I heard about? You can just check the calendar and go, okay, let's scroll through the month. Is it on here? If it is, great. If not, fine. I'll go away and have a look, see when the next event is. And that was just, for me, was a logical progression of making it as easy as possible. Because, like I said, it's hard to run a night when you're being paid. It's even harder when you're doing it for free. And, all of this stuff is really good and deserves far much more attention and credit than it deserves. Every night that I've been to has been absolutely astonishingly brilliant. And sometimes there have been 5 or 6 people in the audience, and that's nobody's fault. No. But it just sometimes it's full, and it's the luck of the draw. But
yeah, I was actually saying to Meredith, I really appreciate intimate events. I think there's a special connection that you hold with the people that you're with in a small event compared to a big one, and if most of them are poets, then you're more easily able to kind of make a connection. Whereas like in a bigger event, you might have to say hi to 20 and get their Instagrams, and you have to kind of like be hi and bye.
Yeah.
When if you've got like an event like with Speakeasy when it first started, I could like take my time and be like, oh hi, I'm Meta. What's your poetry name? What's your name? And then they give me their Instagram, and then we could discuss some of their pieces that they performed that I really loved. I could talk about lines. We can delve into it, and that's something I really miss, and that I think I love about poetry is the connections you make. And I think what you're doing in terms of like making it so accessible, the information, and in a more useful way by area.
Yeah.
Like that is such like the map idea is amazing.
Yeah.
I think you should definitely do that, and I'm glad you're doing it, because I think Chocolate Poetry Club is not around. I think Paul, who ran it, probably wouldn't mind either. But you're keeping it alive and engaging in it. Like, wow, there's this map. And I'm sure people would love to like see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so the map is actually on the website at the moment, which is Where.The.Word.Things.Live.WordPress.com, I believe.
Okay, I'll put that in the screen for people to see.
And that's linked on the Instagram as well. But basically, the map is live. It's not complete yet. I need to finish it off because it is quite time consuming to have to try and find the location. And sometimes venues are quite, if it's the downstairs room of a pub that's that's not on the map, I've got to like go through the coordinates and find it. But I am working on it to sort of get them all on there. And obviously the thing will be sort of a living list, a living directory. It can't be static because some nights come and some nights go, and sometimes they'll come for a few years and then the people who are running it will say, sorry, we can't do it anymore, guys. It's either too expensive or we don't have the time or energy, and then something else will spring up in its place somewhere else. So it's always going to be evolving anyway. So it's nice to not have that pressure to have a complete finished product, because it can never be complete and finished. And I'm not gonna claim that I'll be able to get every night in London. I can't necessarily do that.
That's a promise that
exactly. It's an impossible promise to keep. But also, I have recently put together a Google form for the August events, which I put on the Instagram the other day, so that people can fill it in, which is literally just the event name, the date, and the Instagram handle, so that then I know when in August it is, and then I can pop that on the Instagram as well. And if there's one that pops up that I don't know about or that I've not seen before, I'll do a deep dive and I can put that on the website as well. But it's working collaboratively with people as well, getting people to fill that in, and it makes it easier for me, because at the end of the day, I'm helping other people to help themselves in a way. I'm just making it a bit easier.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you see why I love her so much now?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Because you are being very generous with not only your skill set, but with your time. And this is something you're doing for free that you don't really have to do, but you're doing it because you want to do it, because you love poetry. So.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that I've met through poetry that are so generous as well, which is really refreshing when you live in a place like London.
Yes, yeah.
And I think even just after the pandemic, I think going into poetry has kind of, made me grateful that there's people, has let me know that there are people, very generous people in the scene that exist in the same city that I'm in. Because I didn't, for the longest time, I think I felt like London felt very, like in the movies, like just, the rat race and things like that.
Yeah.
But the creatives I've come across are so generous, so giving, and philanthropic as well. So thank you both for doing those spaces.
Thank you.
Is there something you both would like to see in poetry that has not yet been done, in terms of a type of night or just events? Because like Cajun Colours is doing like poetry and painting. My event, Poetry and Shibs, is like poetry and a party afterwards. Some are now doing what other nights are there?
There's poetry on boats.
Bards on.
Bards on boats.
That was it. You've got League of Absurdity as well, who are doing
a lot of cabaret stuff is happening.
Yeah, sort of cabaret type things, and
Universal Erection is now UE cabaret stuff, which makes it. Lots of things are being. I think it's becoming. There's a fusion that we're noticing there. We're getting some music.
Yeah.
We're getting some. Unheard Poetry had a hoop dancing type artist,
nice.
but it wasn't hula hooping. It was like juggling, but with hoops.
Okay.
And who recited a spoken word piece whilst juggling with these hoops, and they would bounce off of her body, I believe, and be caught. And at different times during this performance, it was incredible. I just think that people are bringing in so many of their different skill sets. It's just, the only way is up.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, that there isn't much in the way that I would want to see the scene grow in a way, because you can't predict how it will grow, and I think it's beautiful how it's growing anyway. The one thing I will say is that, and it's not a poetry thing really, it's just a London venues thing, then London needs to have more accessible venues. Like Process is down a massive flight of stairs, there's loads of events that are done in basements or underground or, at the top room of a pub. And that's nobody's fault, just because venues themselves aren't accessible. But I would love for there to, be, and there probably are lots of events that are fully accessible that I, just haven't been to yet. But certainly I would like to see an expansion of different types of venue, I guess, as well, to make it as accessible as possible. But I really just, I like the fact that the scene is growing, that it's that everyone seems to be supporting each other, and that there is this real sense of community. I can go to multiple poetry nights and I will see 5 or 6 people that I know, all just from going to the same poetry nights together. And then, by the same token, when I went to BYOB Croydon, I didn't know anybody there. I went with a friend, Panos, who is a poetry person who comes to Process a fair bit, but I didn't know anybody else. But it was amazing to meet all these people and connect and say, oh, hey, what you were doing is really cool. And just the fact that you can I then started noticing people at other events. You go, oh, right, you're here as well. So people are moving around, and it's really nice to see that.
But yeah, you're right. There's so many venues that need to be more accessible. Because I live in northwest London, and it's so hard. Most of the events seem to be in South and East London, just because venues are not as demanding and they're a bit more reasonable. Whereas a West London event would ask for a minimum spend. A poetry event where poets don't spend that much money, or don't have the money.
I mean, the most of the events that I've seen in West London happen in Kindred in Hammersmith. There are about 4 events that all happen in Kindred in this one venue at different times of the month. And that's just so insane to me that must be the only venue that people around that area of West London can find.
Get to. Well, Says Events was doing stuff in White City.
So it's called Soho House.
They've gone south now again. They've gone back to Brixton. Anytime Killer Poetry does anything, it's always west.
Ealing,
but there's just not much. You're right.
No.
You're right. It would be really nice to see a more even spread.
And I know that Boomerang Club was originally in West, I believe.
I've not heard of Boomerang, actually.
Boomerang was run by Tyrone Lewis, who runs Process.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was anyway, and somebody else, and a bunch of other people who I can't remember the names of, because I've got a really bad memory. But it was run, but that finished. Their last show was recently. They teamed up with the people who ran Speak Equal and did a fundraising show for Castigue. But Boomerang, it officially sort of finished a few years ago. But that was more West London based. But there's a lack of venues. There's a lack of places to go in certain areas. So of course people are going to gravitate to the areas that are cheaper and the venues which are are easier to get people to go to, kind of thing. But
and unfortunately, there will be in the bottom and basements of pubs.
Yeah.
And you probably could only get a Monday or a Tuesday. Yeah.
I think churches are an untapped market.
I think so too.
I think churches definitely, and as life gets more and more expensive, maybe schools as well and other places that are not normally open of an evening or of a weekend might be a little bit more, and the acoustics in churches and schools in the hall, the auditorium tend to be, exactly. So you could optimize that. And one thing I would like to see, and I've heard a lot of people talking about more often, is the accessibility in terms of multi-generational.
Yeah, I would love to see more I would love to see more kids and more elderly.
Yes, well, Duality D's kids came to the last workshop that we ran, and they were just enthralled watching their mum perform. And then they went away. Yeah. They're super cool kids.
She brought her kids to Cinematic Versus.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent.
Because she's from Ealing. I think it's literally on her doorstep.
Yeah.
So she loved that there was an event.
So happy to have it. Area. Yeah, she was saying, but her kids are now writing poetry.
Oh, nice.
And one of her kids actually had written something by the end of the workshop, actually stood up and performed a little bit for us. And I was just so touched. It's such a bonding moment, though, for sharing. And it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
And it would just be nice to see that. And then I saw her kids again a while later at a different event. And we were happy to see each other. And kids don't, they don't pull any punches if they're not interested in something or someone. They're really happy to see me. I got all kind of misty-eyed and emotional, and I got cuddles and everything. I was just like, we need this, because in schools, I will tell you right now, in schools, the curriculum for poetry is shit. Yeah. That's a technical vocabulary word for that.
Yeah, it's shocking. It's dying.
It's not.
It's just like old white men.
Poetry is very often that, but it's tackled as a reading comprehension. Read this poem, and we'll tell you if you've understood it properly.
Yeah.
Is that, and it's very, very language heavy and very English language heavy too. So if we could approach poetry differently and get grandparents in, get the ancestors in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would love more diversity in the reading curriculum, have some poets and writers from other cultures.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the only one I've seen, I work in a sixth form college, so we deal with 16 to 19-year-olds. We have, we used to teach a few years ago Surge by J. Bernard, who is a person of colour who was writing about the Brixton fire? I think it was in the 80s, and doing this very wonderful piece which ties in with the whole Grenfell thing and how people in marginalised communities are left very often to die and and told that it's their own fault, and we had students studying that, and that was, for me, was a really important thing. But the way that we teach it, like you say, it's comprehension. It's have you understood it? Do you get it? Rather than are you, what does it make you feel?
Yes.
And in October for National or International Poetry Day, I got in Rick Dove, who is a slam champion from a few years ago, to come in and do a performance for us. I performed, a couple of students, a couple of teachers. We had Rick headlining, and before we sort of kicked off, I just had a PA. I was just playing hip hop, the cleanest hip hop that I could find, just at the students to see, to try and get people. If you like this, you'll like what's about to happen because it's similar. And Rick Dove stuff is incredibly important. We have, where I work, there are a lot of students who come from minority backgrounds who may have parents who are part of the Windrush generation or who are immigrants. And having someone speak about that directly and about the kind of struggles that he has faced as someone, living in London and coming and growing up, it kind of was very important. We didn't get as big a turnout as I would have hoped, but I think that's down to the curriculum. It's down to people not being interested and not. I find it ridiculous that the easiest in to poetry for a lot of young people would be rap and hip hop, would be saying,
I hear that all the time.
Hey, if you like Stormzy, well, you might like, this other person who's doing something similar, but it's got no music behind it, but it's saying the same thing, or it's a similar style. And, it's really then, from there you get to cipher and freestyle. From there, you're not that far away from free verse poetry and spoken word. And, you look at people like Saul Williams and, the American spoken word artists who are regularly on towing the line between hip hop and just spoken word and poetry, and you go, that's how we should be teaching it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most of my favourite poets that are in London have said the same thing. Like they kind of got through poetry through hip hop or through that, and we are blowing the lines. I think there's a poet called, one of my favourite poets, O.P. West. He's American. He did a battle. He battled a battle rapper, just doing poetry stuff. Nothing aggressive. It was just wordplay, just dissecting the other person's character through words. And yeah, it was not aggressive at all. It was just it was clean, essentially. I mean, there might have been an F word here or there, but I mean, it was amazing. And people like Akala, Loki, people that are from, these are our generation's poets.
Yeah.
They should be taught in schools, curriculums and things like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so hopefully we get to influence that at some point.
But more intergenerational stuff would be amazing. But that's going to be a long, hard struggle, I think. But the fact that the scene is as welcoming as it is just amazing. I like I said, I performed a little bit in London here or there over the years, but this year was really the year where I just went to one night, performed, everybody was very welcoming, and I just was then, okay, I'll go to more. I want more of this feeling. I want more of people being nice to me and being friends with me and enjoying what I'm writing, rather than just me at home just sounding it against a mirror and going, well, I like it, but does anybody else, and just to hear other people's influences as well.
I love that. I think I've kind of likened meeting new poets is like Netflix, like having a new show, and I get to binge that poet by exploring their catalogue. I got a question for both of you. Like, is there a poet that has opened you to a new style, or a new way of thinking, or a new way of writing, or even a new way of starting a poem or performance?
I think every single person does it differently. Every single person does it differently.
It's a tough one.
Every time I hear a poem or read a poem or look at a poem, I love shape poems and visual parts of poems. I get a different idea and a different inspiration. I couldn't say. I don't know. I find these are tapestries. It's like quilts, where an entire community would sit down and everybody, would bring their thing. And then it all comes together. And that's what I love so much. And this is why united we stand, divided we fall. And I think everybody bringing things in to play. Each poetry night has its own personality as well. So you get poems within the night. Exactly. And then these really neat energies from that night as well. And then you take home the residue of all of that. And then that goes into your work.
Yeah. I mean, it's everyone I've seen. There was someone I met recently who I believe is called Ruth. And she turned up at that goddamn poetry jam, and it was her first ever time performing. And I was blown away. And then recently at Process, a few not that long ago, she came again and performed for the second time ever. And I was blown away again. And I know she's going to be a regular on the scene. I can feel it. She's turned up to 2, or in in the space of 2 weeks, she will be back. But just having the guts to come out on stage and be like, I've never done this before, but I'm going to do it and I'm going to try it. Is something that's really inspiring. But I first encountered Jamal Hassan, Kid and Nancy, on the the Insight Cabaret open mic, which is the LGBT one run by Forum Plus, and hosted by Hannah Hutzber. And Kid and Nancy, Jamal was headlining, and he was running late, which is a staple for him, and he was like halfway home on the bus when he'd sort of logged into the Zoom, and then kind of like when it was his turn to headline, he just got off the bus, went down like an alleyway somewhere, just started performing for us. But like even there in the back, in like an alleyway somewhere, he was still as animated as I've ever seen him on stage. Still just so much energy. And then off the back of that, I then went to that goddamn poetry jam. And the first time I went, again, he was running late, and we set up all the chairs. Everything was all ready. He arrived about 20 minutes late. That's life. I'm always running late. And he just walked straight on stage and just started. And just walked on stage and just shouted, "When I say jam, you say jam. This is the goddamn poetry jam," and just cracked on. But then, you know, he wasn't self-effacing, he wasn't self-deprecating, "I'm really sorry I'm late." He just got on with it. He cracked on and just still had that energy coming through. And that's something I really like, is I'm not a very energetic person in general, but on stage I'm definitely not someone who uses the space as best that I could do. So it's nice to be able to see people who are more kind of performance poets and be able to say,
Andy's
this is
like
something that I like to do.
Andy Devereux.
Oh yes, yeah.
Is very much like that. They've got this theater arts kind of persona.
Oh wow.
And they drive Tyrone nuts because they always end up like reading from the floor, or when Tyrone has to go and change where the camera is.
Well,
that's Jodie's like that as well. Lots of movement from the back.
I have to like shoot wide with Jodie.
Yes, exactly.
Because you mentioned Andy, he headlined Process a few months ago, and when in his headline set, he had one person. Sorry, thank you very much. They had one person holding the microphone, and the instruction was to move the microphone around, and they had to follow it. And then they also got somebody else to get. It was a book of poetry, a book of notes that poems that they'd written down, and it was just a case of there were 3 people on stage. There was Andy, someone holding the mic moving it, and then someone with the book just turning to random pages, and they were performing whatever came up on that page. And just them using the whole space as like a very theatrical thing was incredible to watch. And like certainly I need to get better at not just standing there, and I can gesture, I can look at the audience. I've got, a certain amount of presence. I've been doing this for a while now. I'm not scared of performing, but certainly it's nice to look at other people and go, oh, wait, I don't have to go that. I don't have a theatre background. I don't have to go as far as Andy, but I can just do certain things. I can move around more. I can, gesticulate and, be quiet and loud. And
like a use of levels.
Yes.
One of my favourite poets, Mosh, he does the opposite of all of that. He sits down and he just has a very deep registered voice, but he reads from a book, and because he sits down, he forces people to kind of like focus in rather than kind of like move around. He's very stationary. Yeah. So I think there is space for different types of performances and different types of performers, but I think it's all about earning whatever you're comfortable with and then performing that.
Absolutely. And taking up the space, whatever that space is. I think standing still to perform is really difficult. Like I can't even sit still during this whole thing. We've been all swinging around here, haven't we?
When I swing my chair, because I'll just see it and like stop. I'm telling myself at the
I love
screen,
it.
Stop.
I can't stop moving. I'll just end up like doing something. Yes, standing still. Some people do standing still. Mind State does standing still incredibly well.
Mind State.
Yeah.
I love his poem Straight Jacket.
Yes, that's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. Temi, spoken word, does staying still really well. And then you've got Nash, who Black Ops poetry.
Oh, and Black Ops.
Nash will move around and sort of rock almost, and then go still. and then move around and rock and then go still.
Yeah.
So I think it keeps coming back to this Dolly Parton quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
Figure out who you are and do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Do it on purpose.
I mean, yeah, you look at people like last month's Process was headlined by Robin Lamball, who is an amazing poet who does very animated stuff, who's very just, you know, like a big personality, very intricate spoken word stuff. You know, there was a poem that was to the tune of Flight of the Bumblebees, but only using the words beginning with B or S about bees.
Yes.
It was incredible. But then on the same night, they also had Francis Xavier.
Yeah, I know Francis.
Yeah, and
was it Liam Xavier? I know. Sorry, I might be.
FXM Poet online, I believe, but it's Francis Xavier Mukbar, I want to say, but I might have got that wrong. And he headlined it, and a lot of his stuff uses silence and pauses and very long, elongated bits where you're like, is it finished? Is it not? Is this just dramatic effect? And then all of a sudden, he'll say, thank you. You know, and you go, oh, wait, that pause, it was needed, it was necessary, and like you can sort of have both things going on at once. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Francis Xavier Mukibi. There we go. I was nearly right.
Yeah, no, you did well.
You know, so yeah, having those two, having different styles is very important, but certainly, like you say, it has to be intentional. You have to, that's how you want to do it, or, you know, kind of thing. That's how, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to backtrack because you mentioned you were in Wales, so you're originally from Wales?
No, I was studying at university there. So originally I'm from Lancashire, so in the northwest.
Okay, because Duke Al Durham, he's a poet and a rapper. He started to do poetry events in Wales and Cardiff specifically. So the Wales scene, the Cardiff scene is eventually going to get bigger. And what I love about the other cities like Birmingham and Manchester, and I think Liverpool as well. Like Birmingham's blowing up with Empower and Poetry being like the most predominant, like bigger platforms. But there are others like Blank Canvas Society, I think.
Yeah, I think Birmingham is where Verve Poetry Press are as well. I believe.
Okay, yeah.
I know that Verve have been doing some stuff up there. I think it's Birmingham. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just love that. There's seeds being planted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And for UK events, see Community Poetry Officer.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Lisa O'Hare.
Okay, I don't think I've met Lisa.
Yeah.
Or if I have, I've not seen them.
They're up north.
Oh, okay.
Right. I did the other day have a very fanciful idea that I would spread Where.The.Word.Things.Live and have it as like have it franchised almost around the country, but that's far too much work. But certainly I would love to have, you know, a directory for everywhere that you can find, you know, but you know, I'm going to visit my parents next week in Lancashire. I can't find any nights, you know. I want to go to places and I want to take my parents, I want to perform, you know, with them there and maybe see some old friends, but you know, it's hard to find anywhere, you know, and I'm just so out of touch, and, you know, it really takes someone who knows the scene or who is, you know, living there and, you know, performing there to kind of know what's going on.
If only there was a way where anyone that runs an event can just input it into one site or one app, and then all that information is then calculated.
I think Apples and Snakes have that website now, that sort of poetry community thingy. It's in beta right now. Ideally, in the future, people will be able to upload things. At least that's how Kid and Nancy described it to me when it was all getting set up. But for the time being, they're just working on building that community. But that could definitely could even be a collab.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I said, I've got the Google form for now for like the August events. I'm also at some point I am just going to make a form just for regular events that people could fill in, and they've started an event up, they can fill in the form, and you know, I could put it on the website. But it's hard sometimes to. People have to know about it first, and they have to be, you know, they have to know about the service, and there are lots of places that will, you know, claim to be able to promote events, you know, and it's hard to know which one to go with, but certainly my aim is to try and get as many of the ones in London that I can, and for people to be able to submit the information to me, A, so I don't have to go looking for it, but B, so that they can give me the right information.
Absolutely.
So I'm not finding information from years ago.
And who can submit, because some promoters will be like either too stretched or can't be bothered, or could anybody submit? So let's say I'm a really big fan of a certain event.
Yep.
I could do that too. So it's an open Google form, basically.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, basically,
That's
if you know about an event, my original plan was to, just the people who run events to fill it in. But from what, that's actually a good point to make. Some people run multiple events or are very busy with day jobs. I guess realistically anyone can fill it in. Obviously, I'm going to go check the information anyway, no matter who submits it, no matter who fills it in, because it's all anonymous anyway.
Fabulous.
No matter who
fills
it in and submits it, I'm going to have to go check anyway, just to make sure that I'm not promoting anything that's bad or, there's hate speech or that's, oppressive in any way, blah, blah, blah. But certainly, I guess if anyone wants to submit a thing, then fine. Go ahead, and I will check it out, and I will, make sure the information's correct and add it on there.
Cool. And Speakeasy will continue to share your Instagram. And in our link tree, you're also at the top of our link tree. It says, "Are you looking for the list?" And it sends them to your Instagram. And then once they get to your Instagram, they will find the information on the grid, obviously, but then you've got a link in your bio as well for the form and the blog and everything. Do you see why it was a godsend to have this human being pop into my life?
Okay, just give Fiona her flowers.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. The thing is, I couldn't have done it without you, but I couldn't have done it without poets and without people who are running the scene.
Village, right?
It really does. The amount of people the amount of people who run nights. They're the people who I need to thank, really. They're the people who keep everyone going, who do these amazing events that people want to go back to month after month, And, my sort of quotable phrase of the moment is have emotions, will travel. I have emotions, I need to do something with them, and I will go to these events, and I wouldn't be as... My mental health wouldn't be as good if I didn't have the opportunity to perform and to, to write and to see other people and hear other perspectives and be able to say, oh, this night's really good, I'm going to come here again, or, to find people to connect with, that's really important in life, especially when you live somewhere like London, where everyone is so disconnected, it's so far apart from each other, and... it's hard to make friends, or it's hard to find people you want to socialise with. And to go and be able to do that at these events is just wonderful.
I think everyone kind of says that poetry saved their life. And how real or how true is that for both of you? In terms of, how the importance poetry plays in your...
100%. 10 out of 10. Would poem again.
Yeah.
That's a good...
I mean, It really has saved my life in so many ways. When I was at university and I started writing, that was just because I wanted to get some stuff out. I started writing, performing on the open mic. That gave me, a lot of confidence. Moving to London, when I started writing again, sort of really 2021, I was going through a big breakup, of a relationship that was about 9 years long. I was very emotional. I was very lonely. And it was just I need to write, and started writing, and it got a lot of stuff out and helped me process things in a way that I wouldn't have done otherwise. And then starting to go to these events and go, oh, I'm not alone. Or there are other people who, even if they're not sad or lonely or depressed, they're still having emotions, or they're still thinking about things in a particular way. And just, there are some people who I go and see, and every single time I come away and I'm like, my life is better. My soul is full. My life is enriched because of certain people on the scene, and none more specific than Panos, who is a Greek guy, the Wayward Cat on Instagram. And he does poetry. And I met him at Process in March, maybe. And we just became friends instantly. And that's what I found with the whole scene, is that if you meet someone enough times, people will eventually just come up to you at an event and say, "Is anyone sat here? Can I sit down?" And just you make friends, and it's just. I would be far more lonely and far more, in such a bad place if I didn't have people to connect with, and I got that through poetry.
I've been inspired by people just in different creative ways, running events or, creating a service that makes things easier. Like that's such an amazing thing. And yeah, like I said, it goes back to that word generosity. Like I think, just no one has to do it, but the fact that they did it, it's like
you get tenfold what you put into the universe. That's not why I do it. I don't think that's why any of us here do it. But there's a certain element of paying it forward, and it comes back to everybody, and it just keeps you going.
And I think, like as well, certain people who have, quote unquote, made it in inverted commas, or who have, who have a certain level of recognition, will understand how hard it is to come up and how hard it is to do anything. So in one of the Red Sky sessions, workshops, at the very end, it was when Cecilia Knapp was running it, and at the very end, she got Polar Bear, so Steve Camden, to come on and do a performance, and basically it was the end of the whole sort of 5 or 6 weeks, and she also picked random people who'd submitted stuff to perform, and she said, you can now say you have performed with Polar Bear. Wow. Even if it's just as simple as he did 3 or 4 poems and you did 1 or 2, out of 15 people, you still performed with him in the same space as. That holds currency.
Counts. Of course it does.
And for people to be able to say that, to be able to say that, people like Tyrone Lewis, who runs Process, to say I've shared a stage with him, and then to say I've got the recordings to back it up, that I've, he's recording everything, and to have the videos and be able to say, oh wait, this is how I can promote myself, but also how that I can. It's helping other people in sort of various ways, which is just it's really, really nice.
We're running out of time, so I wanted to, before we end the podcast, just kind of have you guys just promote anything or share anything that you think's worth letting people know about.
Do you want to kick off, Meredith?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Follow me, Meredith, Meredith, M3R3D1T4. Yeah, it's letter number. It's sort of throwing it back to old Leet talk. Follow me to see what I'm doing. I'll be out in Vancouver for the next little while, being a beach bum and causing shit in the West Coast. So,
so on Instagram it is Where.The.Word.Things.Live. Like I said, with full stops in between each word. My personal one is Fiona Kist, like Fiona, Fiona, and then RCHIST. So like Fiona and Anarchist, basically it's a portmanteau. But Where.The.Word.Things.Live.wordpress.com. Basically, that's all I would want to shout out is poets, people who are running events, people who are actually doing, grafting and doing the hard work month after month. We couldn't do it without you.
And you can find all that information at Fiona's page. So that's awesome. As usual, you can find me at The Metaphorest, The Metaphor, EST, all one word, Instagram and YouTube, The Metaforecast as well, links in my bio. But also, I wanted to give give Fiona and Meredith their flowers, just for being so generous with their time and their skills, and just thank you so much for the scene.
You too.
And we need more people.
Thank you very, very much.
You too.
Like them. So
and
thank you so
you.
much. But yeah, anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening, and leave a comment down below if you like anything that anyone's touched upon. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Yay.
Fantastic.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
That's all right.
The lights are going to turn on us any second. I was waiting for them to. They do that, don't you, when you time out?
Did they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realise.